The moment of collapse is silent and instantaneous. 1 second, the moon is a familiar sphere. The next, it is a phantom. It implodes and fractures, disintegrating into a colossal cloud of its own constituent parts. Trillions of tons of rock and regolith are released from their solid state. This cloud retains the moon's original mass and momentum. However, the distribution of that mass has now been radically altered. Over the hours and days following the collapse, the individual fragments start to spread out along the moon's orbital path. Eventually, it forms a complete, unbroken band of light, a new permanent ring for Earth, far brighter and more substantial than Saturn's. The idea of a truly dark, star-filled night would become a memory. The ring would reflect enough sunlight to hide all but the brightest stars. The most immediate and violent consequence would be the complete disruption of Earth's tides. The gentle, rhythmic pull is replaced by a chaotic and continuous tug. Coastlines would be battered by a series of erratic and unpredictable waves instead of 2 predictable high tides a day. This tidal chaos would render every port and coastal city in the world unusable. Shipping schedules, which rely on predictable tide charts, would become meaningless. The constant, unpredictable sloshing of the world's oceans would dramatically accelerate coastal erosion, washing away beaches, cliffs, and wetlands. The new ring is a messy, grinding debris field. Collisions are constant, and each impact has the potential to alter an object's trajectory towards Earth. The sky would no longer be a peaceful expanse, but the ceiling of a shooting gallery. The influx would begin as a spectacular and terrifying meteor storm. More concerningly, it would pose a lethal threat to every satellite in orbit. The delicate shells would be sandblasted by hypervelocity impacts, rendering them useless within days. Global positioning systems would fail, immediately grounding airplanes and bringing maritime navigation to a halt. Global communications would be severed. The most terrifying aspect, however, would be the larger impacts. Rocks the size of buildings would begin to rain down, their impacts random and unpredictable. With the oceans in perpetual motion, the planet's primary climate regulation system begins to break down. The great ocean currents are completely disrupted. The reliable monsoons of Asia, fed by warm Indian Ocean waters, would falter, leading to catastrophic droughts and famine for billions. Atmospheric instability fuels continent-sized superstorms. These storms would be unlike anything in recorded history, with hurricane-force winds and biblical-scale precipitation. In colder regions, this would manifest as relentless blizzards, dumping meters of snow in single events and burying entire landscapes. The constant bombardment injects colossal amounts of fine dust into the stratosphere, creating a permanent veil that causes severe global dimming. This reduction in solar radiation would cause a rapid drop in global temperatures, plunging the planet into a sudden and permanent ice age. For plant life, the combination of cold and darkness would be catastrophic. Photosynthesis slows to a crawl, and agricultural yields collapse globally. Falling temperatures allow snow and ice to persist, increasing the Earth's reflectivity and further cooling the planet. Mountain glaciers and polar ice caps would expand at an unprecedented rate. Coastal power plants are rendered inoperable by random tidal surges, forcing emergency shutdowns that leave entire regions in darkness. The superstorms bring down transmission towers by the thousands, severing the connections between power plants and the cities they supply. The age of ubiquitous, on-demand electricity comes to an abrupt end. Rolling blackouts soon become permanent power downs. The failure of the grid means the loss of modern sanitation, water purification, and the collapse of the entire global supply chain. The world is forcibly deindustrialized. The convergence of environmental disaster and infrastructural collapse forces the largest and most desperate human migration in history. Billions flee the great port cities. Viable lands narrow to specific mid-latitude bands and high-altitude plateaus, away from the ice and the worst of the storms. These safe zones become the destinations for millions, but are quickly overwhelmed, leading to conflict over food, water, and shelter. Nation-states give way to smaller, defensible communities. Fortified agricultural enclaves, bound by mutual dependence, become the new centers of human civilization. Generations after the collapse, The Earth settles into a new, harsh, but stable equilibrium. The chaotic tidal fury eventually subsides as the ring organizes itself. Humanity, or what remains of it, has had to adapt. Life is hard, local, and communal, built around the stark necessities of food production and defense. Knowledge of the old world is preserved in guarded libraries, maintained by a new class of scholar engineers who work to replicate simple, robust technologies. The planet has found a new balance, but it is a far less hospitable one. It is a world where survival is a conscious daily effort, not a given. The most profound legacy of the moon's collapse is etched not upon the Earth, but in the sky. The pulverized remains of our former companion are a permanent fixture in the heavens. It is the silent, ever-present witness to the world's fall from grace, a constant reminder of the fragile stability that was lost. The impossible scenario of its collapse serves as a powerful reminder that the systems governing our existence are far more intricate than we perceive. Our world is a product of this cosmic partnership. What scenario should we explore next? Share your ideas below. You've been watching IfVerse, where imagination meets possibility. See you in our next reality.